Meta said it last week.
The leading DTC agency in the UK.
On both platforms.
What's the secret to doing that in just 7 years?
Constantly building brand, constantly putting out content, constantly building our position in the market, and then nurturing and keeping really good people. And that's what separates like a good agency from like great agency business, because people is everything.
You both had very successful agencies. How did the conversation even start to bring things together?
We were servicing brands on TikTok. We couldn't get it to work with the same creative from Meta. We knew Loukas, so we took that proposition to him. From there, and we moved in together.
Chaos.
What do you think is the biggest mindset shift you've had to go through when it comes to scaling?
Always being
How do you combat when the business is changing so quickly? Or do you think you're now at a point where, because you're so large, there's a lot more stability in that? But that feels like a problem that many agencies deal with. Is like they don't know yet where they're going, so it's hard to create that progression path.
It needs to be tied to business impact. One thing we're obsessing over with our team is flipping it to, this is the business impact I've created, and that's why I should be on this salary.
You've managed to hold over some of the biggest brands in the UK. What do you think has allowed you to do that over other D2C agencies?
I'm also just a big believer.
Would you say you're the leading D2C agency in the UK?
Yeah, Meta said it last week.
Did they?
Yeah, we
Biggest
are.
independent, yeah.
On both platforms, TikTok and
Would
Meta.
they? Interesting. Well, that can just be the intro. So you are the leading, now Meta have agreed that you are the leading D2C agency in the UK.
Yeah.
Start 7 years ago. Got like almost 100
Saw
team
Hambi
members now.
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got the whole group. What's the secret to doing that in just 7 years? We're straight in. That is the intro.
All right.
Oh, we're in.
Yeah, we're in. We're in.
We started.
Yeah, you've given me the meat. Meta have certified you are the leading UK D2C agency. How do you do that in 7 years?
God.
It's a big question.
People and marketing. There you go. People and marketing. I think it all comes down to positioning, constantly building brand, constantly putting out content, constantly building our position in the market, and then nurturing and keeping really good people. If I was to distill it down to two fundamentals.
Yeah, I think that like marketing piece is, it's definitely both sides, because as you say, like acquisition isn't anything without retention, but I do think that marketing engine is something that's we do in quite a unique way. Like there's a lot of investment. There's a whole marketing department doing one lead magnet a week, the podcast that we do weekly, doing that, the newsletter, doing all of the content marketing side so consistently over the last 2 years has really like helped solidify our position in the UK market, which has been a massive driver. And I think a lot of agencies shy away from that because it does take time, it does take effort. But it builds momentum. It's like a snowball.
Yeah, I think the frame that we've always used on business development is like, you don't have a sales problem, you've got a marketing problem. I can't remember who said that to me, but it was like 4 or 5 years ago, and it reframed the way I think about client acquisition in our industry. And I think it's almost moved more and more towards that over time. Especially as you start to progress up a market in terms of client value, it's harder and harder to sign high value retainers through outbound or direct sale methods, I think. Maybe in-person's an exception to that. But I think you really need to build reputation. You need to, and another thing we also embed in that process is like the concepts, which Alex Hormozi says is like, give away the strategy, sell the implementation. It's like those two frames have built the pipeline we have, and I always believe pipeline solves problems, is another saying. It's like it gives you headspace to not make bad decisions, not just go deal to deal, not close bad fits, and then that translates to better strategy and better client delivery.
I feel like you've always grown almost with the D2C industry in the UK. It always, at least perceptionally, feels like you've managed to have a hold over some of the biggest brands in the UK. What do you think has allowed you to do that over the mass of other D2C agencies that are in the exact same market here?
I come from a background before doing the agency of starting a brand, and then I've always like been involved in a number of brands throughout the journey as well. I think we talk about a product, which is our service, like just internally. and we think about product development in a way that any other business would. So it's like, how are we innovating? So we started by just doing media buying. That worked really well for a few years. We then started to build like a forecast model because a lot of brands were needing more help with the intersection of marketing and finance. That became a new iteration of our service. iOS 14 hit. The way to get success changed again. Now it's all creative. We merged with Hambi. It's like we've always been, I think, really close to the forefront of what's like Meta. We had a meeting with Meta the other week, and they were like, "You're the ones in the UK that are always pushing the boundaries, pushing that innovation forward in terms of how we're actually delivering, like on the cutting edge of how to deliver results." Which I think is how we've got there.
Yeah, I think it's a timing thing as well. Like especially on the creative side, like you obviously I've known you for years, and you knew the first 2 years of Hambi Media, our creative agency we were doing completely different services to what we were doing now, and it was being able to have that agility to pivot when needed, when the wave was coming in for iOS 14 happened, and then as a result of that, the emphasis was put on creative, and I saw that happen, and that's where we just essentially went all in on performance creative, niched into that, and we were able to hit the wave. I'm also just a big believer of like leaning into your unfair advantages, what's going to make you stand out over other agencies. And I think the one advantage that we could lean into was the fact that we were doing high production ads, which not many in the UK were at that point in time. It was all about UGC and statics. So being able to like create a solution and a product that lent into our unfair advantages, but also was doing something that others weren't, it gave us that unique value prop.
You two have obviously gone through this acquisition side of the business and the merger, and obviously I know there's other co-founders inside of the business, but for the context of people that don't know you, how did you cross paths? And you both had very successful agencies. How did the conversation even start to look to bring things together? Was there a weakness that you identified in the source side that made you think, well, Hambi, you've filled this gap? Like, what did that look like?
It was pretty organic. Yeah, that was the word. I was literally about to say organic. We actually started working together because Loukas and the team started doing our organic socials. So we brought them on to service us as a business and make because we wanted to build an organic social presence to help us with hiring and client acquisition. So they started running like the Instagram and socials. Then we started to just send a bit of work over. And at the time, I don't think that work was necessarily like exactly ideal client profile for you guys, really, was it? It was a little bit outside of probably what the usual scope would look like.
It was strategic.
Yeah.
Because we knew that you would be able to get clients through you as well.
Yeah, I think the thing with like performance marketing is like it's such a sticky creative offer because you need repeats. It's like you can't just turn it off. It's like as soon as it's why we were finding whenever we worked with a performance creative agency, it just made our results so much better, our ability to deliver creative so much better. So we started referring some bits. Then we started For You because, which is our TikTok proposition off the back of that, because we noticed when we were servicing brands on TikTok, we couldn't get it to work with the same creative from Meta. Mine and Joe's skill set is not creative. We'd obviously knew Loukas, so we took that proposition to him and we're like, well, let's do this TikTok agency to capitalize on the wave that was TikTok paid. And then from there, it kind of branched out to becoming mates. And then we moved in together and then, and then we...
Chaos.
The chaos ensued.
Yeah, I think it happened in the best way possible. Like if it can happen organically, that's so much better because especially, if you can enjoy working with the people that you're going to be, merging into the same group of, it's fireworks, it can be so much better as a result of that. And I think the TikTok proposition came around where Ollie approached me and said, we want to set up a new agency, which is just TikTok first. We have all of these skills, you have those skills, why don't you come in with us and do it? And what was that? I laughed about this since, but what's so funny was like, he was talking about this thing called UGC, and I didn't really know what UGC was then. Like, we were very organic first, like brand focused content marketing on social at the time. And I was like, yeah, we can do UGC. That's fine. Like, 100%.
Didn't know that.
But I've kind of like had that outlook at, if you need to do something that's going to like drive the needle forward, you say yes and work it out. I genuinely think it's like the biggest hack to like learn something quickly is
Pressure.
Is pressure, or especially when you're ADHD. Like, if you don't have that pressure and like you need to do something by this point, like you just don't do it. But then also having that ability to actually run with it. And teach. I think that is actually the best way you can learn a topic, is to actually teach it. So if there's ever something that I know is going to really benefit the team, but also myself, I will put a training session in on it and double down on it and become an expert in it in a couple of weeks.
Nice. It's Richard Branson that says, if you ever get offered an opportunity you don't know how to fulfill, say yes and then learn later. I feel like you were the first, or one of the first UGC agencies in the UK. Yeah,
we were. I think we were definitely, we were probably the first performance creative agency just for DTC, especially for TikTok, and then moved over to Meta, obviously, over the last sort of 2 years. And we're the biggest for TikTok, the biggest for Meta as well, for DTC, for sure.
I think like just a key thing to mention here as well, like if the agency owners are listening and they're thinking of merging, acquiring, or even just looking for a business partner, because that was actually something I just always wanted. And I looked at Joe and Ollie and I was just jealous that I couldn't build with someone else. Like, and I was a solo founder and I didn't actually want to be a solo founder because I know what I'm really good at, but then I know what the things I'm not so good at. So I think like the key there is the reason it's worked so well is because Ollie and I have very, very different skill sets that very much complement each other. So it still needs to be strategic to some degree. It can't just be, you get on really well, so let's do something together. I think that's really important.
What are the complexities that came with that? Like, what did you expect to happen? And then what actually happened? Because did you get rid of the creative team inside of Saw? Like, did you have to merge teams? Are they run as independent entities? Like, what did that look like?
I've been reflecting on this a lot recently because I think we're going to probably look at doing another acquisition at some point. So it's like, I think it's important to look back and be like, what would we do differently? I think it had, so we completed the acquisition in like January, I think, officially, but we'd started to sort of work together more directly for like 6 to 8 months before that, because it just takes a long time to finish anything like that. Especially if you get dodgy lawyers. And
we were already like co-founded for you at that point for about a year. So we'd know, it was like proven that it worked.
But what we started to do was we started to like merge the service together, but we probably didn't, if I was to do it again, I would probably do that more aggressively quicker, because even now not everything is like fully connected. There's still parts of the business that feel like slightly siloed, and it's just way more complex than you think, especially as you're trying to grow fast at the same time. Because what it allowed us to do is we got even better product market fit, and I've spent a lot of time over the last 12 to 18 months building that marketing engine that has just got better and better and better and better over that time. So we just had more deal flow, more pipeline, more demand for the service. We getting better case studies. But yeah, I think we should have just like reorged the whole business in one go rather than trying to phase it over, because it's complex. And I think what you don't appreciate is like when you make a change in a business, it has a very big impact on efficiency, and you can't really see that impact, but it just does. It has a lagging impact on like team output, process output, because it's just people just find it hard to adopt new process or change.
We only just merged Notion, which is pretty mental. We've been
interesting.
We've merged a while ago now, but again, that came with its complexities and inefficiencies, and it does disrupt the day to day. But I think the things we should have definitely done sooner is like have that much faster alignment to culture pillars, values, mission, we reworked our mission and values recently, and we did it with the whole team. So we got everyone together at an offsite and did a whole session where each group had to come together, come up with a mission and values based on a brief, and then everyone pitched them, and then we kind of merged them all into what we felt were the best ones. Because in that book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he talks about, you know, a great mission and values that an organization can get behind are the ones that are created from within the bowels of an organization, not by the C-suite behind their wooden desks. But again, that only happened at the start of this year, I think it was, when it had been 12 months since we'd merged. So there were almost like inconsistencies across the way that both teams were working until that point. And we felt the right thing at the time was to kind of very slowly transition everything across, because we didn't want to create this disruption amongst the team, but it almost did more harm than good in the long term.
I think the difference with this acquisition to probably other acquisitions that we would explore, maybe other acquisitions that other agency groups would do, is like we committed to merging the teams together because we needed to do it for a product perspective. Because we believe that that intersection between creative and paid media, those things need to work together. So we had like all of the paid growth on SAW and then all of the creative on Hambi. So we've completely merged the org charts, which if we were to buy like a CRM agency, for example, which we maybe would do it at some point, it's like we'd just have that as a department. It's a much simpler process, whereas like reorging the business, we should have just committed to doing it in one big build, I think, is a reflection. But it's gone really well still, but it's just like lots of lessons out of that.
Is the main issue communication through team-to-team communication, and then are there any client-facing issues that present themselves?
There's definitely there's definitely churn. Like you get higher churn through like.
And why do you think that is?
Process, people, just like I said, like process change. There's just so much going on. Like there's so many moving parts to that process.
I think the biggest confusion for the clients is that they get confused with it's pitched as a joint service, paid and creative, but then they're like, there's Hambi, there's SAW, like what's what, and I think there's confusion around the brand and, you know, the fact that there are two entities, but they are the same team, and it's, you know, great marketing and great positioning should be extremely simple, and that does confuse things.
That's the final piece of the puzzle. Is just merge it all together, which we'll do probably before the end of the year.
Under one central brand?
Just for simplicity, I think, yeah.
Will you rebrand when you do that?
Probably not. Probably keep. There's too much equity in the SAW brand, I think, of the two. That's where most of the deals come from, so we'd keep it as one. But yeah, I think just like, I think we had a plan, but I think the plan, in hindsight, I would have changed the way we approached it. I would have been more bullish on how fast we moved to just merge fully and conviction and commitment to it, I guess. But it still went really well.
There's a lot of learnings though. Like I think we've learned a lot even this year, just in terms of like how to best communicate with a team at scale. Like we've gone through a lot of process changes that needed to happen just because of, again, the market changes, Meta's Andromeda. A lot of the service had to adapt and evolve because of that, which normally I feel like that happens every 2 years, where the service does just need to very much evolve and change, or you will just die and get left behind. But I think some great feedback we've actually had from the team is, and this is useful for any agency owner, whether you're small agency or a bigger agency, is bring the team into those decisions, and it's never going to be them. It's never going to be to the point where we all collaboratively with the team come to that decision, but getting buy-in before you roll that out is really important, especially if it's something that's going to disrupt their day-to-day. And sometimes we just kind of threw in, okay, we're changing this process and this is what's happening now, without actually getting that full buy-in before doing so. So I think that's a really useful insight that we've learned through the process, and something we're definitely going to take forward.
Yeah, the two parts of agency that nobody speaks about, because they just think they're pretty like unsexy in comparison to marketing, sales, service delivery, is business operations and internal communication and culture. I think people talk about culture, but like how do you turn that into a process? How do you measure its impact? How do you measure like team churn and risk of churn like you would measure your pipeline? Something I'm thinking about a lot right now, because as you get to like the size we are, it's so important. So important for so many reasons. And then biz ops, like HR development, employee career progression plans, how that layers into KPI measurement all the way through the org that backs into a P&L. It's like just very boring, but like I think that's what separates like a good agency from like a great agency business, is if you can excel at that, because people is everything.
Yeah, and it's probably the biggest reason we haven't been able to like, because deal flow has never been an issue, but like the reason we haven't been able to scale even more in the last 2 years is people. And like if people leave a business and you can't replace them quick enough and train that person up, it completely throws everything off and slows down, you know, the rate at which you can bring on clients. So I think that's a massive one. Like we were talking about this, like that idea of agencies are so obsessed about churn rate for client, you know, client churn, but they never look at like employee churn. And so I think that's like a really interesting KPI.
Yeah, I'd rather lose a client than a team member like tenfold. And it's like, but nobody measures like where you've got a pipeline waiting for a possible client of maybe like 10% to 100% signed, 10% like very doubtful. I feel like you've kind of got the same for a team member. Like you've got like someone who is like so bought into the mission, massive advocate of the business, progression, like moving up the organization, zero risk of them leaving. Then you've got like a middle 50% of people, and then you've got like a detractor, people who are like probably actively looking for other roles, or like maybe like have a bit of a negative sentiment building around elements of the business. It's like I think that's like important to measure as you get bigger.
What are you benchmarking like client, like employee churn at?
We want it as low as possible. It's like a linear relationship between revenue growth and employee churn. Sorry, is that right? Yeah, like linear. Employee churn goes up, revenue growth goes down. Like black and white as that. So it's like the lower, the better. It's not impossible to keep headcount. Like it's impossible to probably keep it at zero, but like we want to be keeping it as low as possible. But yeah, we do a lot around like NPS surveys internally. We do a lot around like really improving our review process, development plans, etc., to minimise that.
I think that's so important, especially if you're at a point where you're doing at least 30k a month in revenue, is when you really need to start doubling down on those HR processes. Because I'd say one of the most common reasons like people leave a business is because they don't know what the line of progression looks like, because it hasn't been they haven't been bought into that. They don't know where they can grow into.
How do you combat that when the business is changing so quickly? So in some senses, you don't even know where you're going. Have you ever found yourself in a position where you create like a line of progression that isn't actually possible anymore because the business's direction has changed somewhat? Or do you think you're now at a point where, because you're so large, there's a lot more stability in that?
Yeah.
But that feels like a problem that many agencies deal with. It's like they don't know yet where they're going, so it's hard to create that progression path.
It needs to be tied to business impact. I think that's the key. Like people approach pay reviews and say, I need to be on this amount of money because that's what the market rates are, or whatever it is. And one thing we are like obsessing over with our team is flipping it to, this is the business impact I've created, and that's why I should be on this salary.
Nice.
And that the way you do that is obviously tying progression to their KPIs that feed up to a forecast. So, you know, you can directly see the impact of you know, the business impact that they are contributing to. So it's tied to the commercials as well as their own impact on the commercials.
That makes sense.
I think thinking through businesses at that earlier phase where you've got less predictability and you've got less headcount, it's like, I think you can keep the incentive and progression fairly simple at that stage. You can probably do it very like tied to just direct business output. Obviously, as you get past like 20 people, you start to have to build an org chart structure that's scalable, which is repeatable, and back to like gross margin profile that produces the right EBITDA outcome. So it's like, at that point, it becomes a lot more benchmarkable, a lot more formulaic, I think. But we've had like, I think the first 6 people we hired still are in the business. First one was a friend of mine I went to school with, who's our MD. The employee 5 and 6 were 2 guys we hired at like 20 and 19, who are our CMO and COO. So they've been through like probably 6, 7, 8 rounds of progression over the course of the business, and I think I've always just approached it with like proactivity in mind. Like, you'd never want someone coming to you to ask you where their next step is. You want to lead, because you don't think you want to be on. If they're good, if they're really good people, it's like you want to proactively dangle the carrot, like almost of like, this is where you're going to go next, but this is what we need to see to get there. That's also what we are thinking. Like, when you're building career progression frameworks, it's like, I think when you've got a really big team and there's people progressing and there's others that aren't, that comparison becomes quite an issue. It's like, why am I not getting that? Because I think I'm producing the same output. So you need to make it quite objective and quite rooted, remove the subjectivity, provide the comparison points, provide the clarity, so that it removes that as well, because that can create quite negative sentiment, I think.
I was going to bring up the fact that you've got, like, many of your like senior team members have been people that have been with you for a long time and friends and so on. Have you hired many people inside of the business from a senior perspective that have come straight into the business in a place of seniority, or have you always, like, you know, enabled people to grow inside of the business? What's your general mindset surrounding that?
I think one big learning is that we've waited too long to be bringing in senior members from externally that can teach us things and have one thing that we will never have, which is an additional 10 plus years experience in the game. And I think because the business is very much operationalized now, and we're kind of from that start up to scale up, that's something we should have brought in sooner, because I think the risk when, and you know, there are lots of cases where progressing people through an organization is amazing, but then if your whole senior management team are people that are, you know, between the ages of 25 and 30, there's not enough context almost that can be applied to drive that. So we've literally just hired a director of creative ops who's like a real first real senior head that has probably like 15, 20 years experience on all of us, which we're really, really excited for. But we should have done that sooner. Because I think it's one of the best investments you can make as you're starting to get to that point.
Yeah, we've engineered it in certain ways. I still think we should have done it sooner, but we've got a CFO who's brought a lot. We call it grey hair, like grey hair, been around the block. He's actually bald. If he watches this, that's funny. But we call it like grey hair. It's like getting someone who's just walked the path in, shared that learned experience. I think a lot of what they provide, I'm actually in talks with another one at the moment who used to be a CEO of one of the biggest agencies in the country to get her to do some like day rate consultancy as well. A lot of the places they help, like a lot of the places I think they add a lot of value is in like really top line stuff like commercial strategy. Like, we should have raised our prices earlier at the start of this year, and that had so many downstream effects on us because our margin compression, pay bands we couldn't raise, talent, like therefore talent wasn't as high quality as maybe what we were looking for to provide the outcome we were selling. So we had a few rocky months of that, and all we needed to do was raise prices. But when you don't have that benchmark and like you've come from like a bootstrap business background, it's like to have the conviction, you almost need someone to like give you the conviction to do that. And now we've gone through a few pitching processes where I've asked for feedback and they've been like, yeah, you were like 40% cheaper than everybody else in the room. It's like, and we're like as good, if not better than they are. It's just like stupid things like that. Like she would just take one look at our pitch deck and be like, you should charge 5-10k more than that per month. So I think they provide like very big unlocks in areas like that. So excited to get more of that into the business over the next 12 to 18 months.
Nice.
See, I think it's like very much about like leaving your ego at the door as well, because I think a lot of young founders, they, you know, young, hungry, they don't want to bring someone in that could potentially damage their own ego or come across more senior than them. But it's like the, you know, Ben Francis thing where growing Gymshark, he realised it got to a certain scale where he literally wasn't experienced enough to be the CEO of that business anymore, and he brought in a seasoned CEO. I think he went into product for a few years. to learn from this guy and then step back in as CEO. And I think that is a growth mindset as a founder, making the right decisions for the business rather than yourself.
Especially once you get past a certain level of head count, I think. Like, just get past a certain stage where it's just an absolute machine. Like, that's how it needs to operate, but it is. And it's like, you can make like 2 or 3 decisions a year that like really make the massive difference. So yeah, I think we definitely would have done that sooner. But
so is every single person in the company incentivized to a KPI to a degree?
Yeah, everybody's measured to a KPI that backs into either someone else's KPI that ladders to the P&L or is a direct P&L. So it's very, very measured.
Media buyers, for example, what do you benchmark them on? What's the KPI?
Growth strategists, we call them, but those would be like ad spend, client ad spend growth. Creative strategists would be percentage of ad spend through our creative assets. So it's nice. Very, very measured all the way through. Because again, I think you need objectivity in that process for so many different reasons.
Yeah. So like an account director who's head of the account management department would own blended churn rate, and then all of her direct reports would own churn rate for each of their pods individually. So she is incentivized to be driving them to achieve their KPIs because it feeds up into her KPIs, which then feed up into the forecast. Because obviously we, as part of that forecast, you're predicting a certain amount of churn. So yeah, and I think that's how you get very black and white with those reviews, because it was the issue previously, like looking at our reviews like a year ago or whatever, they just too subjective. And when something is so subjective, like people can quite easily argue with you why they deserve something, and you can't actually give them the proof as to why they can't. But if you create that objectivity and it's more quantitative, it's very black and white, and it almost motivates them more because there's more clarity around exactly what they need to do to unlock that next stage of growth. So we've just redone our career progression frameworks. Every role has a career progression framework. So you'd have a level, which is your job title. So a creative strategist would be level 1, senior strat would be level 2. But then under each level, there's bands, which obviously you can grow within the bands as well as part of that. And there's real clarity under those career progression frameworks, like what you need to do, what you need to be achieving to reach the next band.
How often are you reviewing? Like the
quarterly?
Yeah.
30-day, 60-day, 90-day when they join, and then quarterly after that.
And their direct manager is responsible for tracking?
Yeah, it's quite auto. We've got like loads of automations there that tracks all that, a lot of that, to be honest. Like,
nice.
But
what's the tech back end behind it?
Just Loukas Studio and a load of data reports, into a Notion dashboard.
Nice. How do you guys personally handle the pressure of having so many team members?
It's a good question. I don't really feel pressure's maybe not the word. I guess there's pressure, but it's like it feels like we've got really good alignment and really good people at a leadership level, and therefore I don't feel like it's necessarily like direct pressure on me as an individual. Maybe Loukas would have a different view, but I generally enjoy running a people business and there's nothing better than working with loads of great people that are very aligned to producing an outcome and where you're producing amazing work. I think you can go through patches where like you have a couple of months that are very stressful, but again, I think as long as you've got the right mindset, the right growth mindset, like I just think we're all very receptive to feedback. I think we're all very adaptable. We're very willing to pivot. We're very willing to admit mistakes. I did an all-hands talk the other day where we literally went through how we'd got communication wrong in the business for the first 6 months of this year and how we're going to do it differently moving forward. So, yeah, I don't really feel pressure as such. I think one thing that helps with pressure is having a decent amount of cash flow in the bank, like runway, which then removes stress. I think that's like one thing. And like, not focusing too much on the monetary outcome and focusing very much on like the process and like what you're actually just trying to build and who you're trying to build it with. It's a bit of a convoluted answer maybe, but what's your thoughts?
No.
Yeah, I think I've definitely had periods where where you feel more pressure, because naturally when you're like, I think we hired near 30 people last year. That's a lot of people, a lot of upskilling, a lot of management time. And when you're bringing that many people into a culture, it's very hard to like keep that culture how it was previously, because naturally you need to align people to certain values that when you're bringing people in at such scale, it's very hard to do that. So as a result, it can come with politics, and that's the one part that can be tricky. But I genuinely think now, because those HR processes are such a focus for us and people are getting the support they need, the mission is at the forefront of every single huddle that we do with the team. The value, we're shouting out culture pillar alignment almost every day now, as well as on a weekly basis through our all hands huddles.
What does that look like when you do that?
We do them around different things, but in every single, like, different topics. But every single all hands will have a section where we go through our culture pillars, which is extreme ownership, client centricity, radical curiosity, and
kind candor.
I
forgot the best one.
Yeah, the best. Well, the one we won't stop banging on about. But so
candor.
Yeah, the concept of just like candid feedback. I think it's like
up and down,
yeah,
and to those you work closest with.
I think if you can get a team aligned to an objective, who are willing and able to give each other direct feedback, I think everything else will take care of itself, because they hold each other to a standard, and then you don't need to manage them. Like, they're all managing them, each other,
in a way of, and it's like the idea of being kind, not nice. You're nice to someone if you're not telling them, if you're not giving them the feedback that they deserve to hear, because you're being a people pleaser. You're saying what you think is going to make them happy in the short term, but that's not going to help them long term. Being kind is being direct, honest, but constructive and empathetic in what they can do to grow and improve. And that's like something we're driving through the whole business now on a team level, because what it creates is, even in management, you'll get one manager that sees something that someone else's direct report has done. They'll go to the manager and give the manager that feedback, and it won't then get raised for another 30, 40 days until their next review. Or alternatively, you'll get an individual go to their manager about a problem with someone they work with. That manager will tell the other person's manager, and then the other person's manager will feed back to them, and then they have resentment because they're like, well, I work right next to this person, and that's clearly gone up, behind my back.
Yeah.
So by doing it, it actually creates a more honest, open culture where, because A players challenge A players, that's like the mentality of being an A player. You expect high standards, and that's what it really helps drill into the business. And it's probably the best culture pillar change that we've made. But yeah, it's really important.
It's hard to build as well. It's a muscle.
It takes time. That's the thing. It's like we've had it now for 5-6 months, and it's only now that I'm really starting to see the impact of it, because it is a muscle that you need to flex, and that's why we keep it at the forefront of reviews and give people training on how they can be better at being candid, because it's very, very difficult, even for managers, to be direct sometimes. It's like very hard to learn that skill.
Yeah, and you have to, especially junior staff. Like it's an unnatural thing to give someone, especially in today's society, I think, to give someone direct feedback one-to-one to their face about something that you think they haven't done well enough. But it's just powerful.
No Rules, the book about Netflix, they talk about it a lot. Like, that was a massive part of Netflix's culture. And there's that other book that's good to read, that Radical Candor as well.
So I feel like a lot of agencies have like their values, and a lot of agencies create their mission, their vision, their values. They create them once, they sit on a spreadsheet or on a presentation and never do anything again. And then maybe on a Monday morning meeting, they'll read them out again. But like tangibly, like how are you reinforcing this in the team without just every day being like, oh, these are our values? Are you using real world examples where people have slipped up to re-educate?
Yeah. Every single week they'll get shouted out in Slack. Here's an example where this person demonstrated this value.
And how
but never on the negative.
And how it translated to, you always put praise in public, criticise in private, right? So it's all anything negative is done on a review setting or one-to-one setting, and you'll anchor the feedback again to the culture pillar. But we think of that culture through like, it's internal and external in an agency. It's like we also want that culture to be embodied in how we interact with clients. So we want our people to challenge clients when it needs to happen. We don't want them to be just yes men, because that's not what they pay us to do. Like, we're there to guide them, and candour's effective in a product, in our products as well. It's like we want to be challenging. If they say there's something that's stupid, we don't just do it because they say it. We're like, no, that's a stupid idea. We should do this instead.
Yeah, we've also got that Matter app that we said about, which is like a Slack connection where people give kudos to each other every week that they can then turn into vouchers and things, but they can only give them based on culture pillars. So they're in alignment with that. They're getting rewarded for aligning with culture pillars. But then I think what Ollie was kind of going to go on to is one of the most impactful ways that you can bring that to the forefront is almost like an employee case study. Here's how this person demonstrated these values, which then resulted in business impact for us, which meant they progressed to this job title.
Nice.
So it's like, it's not just like some fluffy culture thing. It's like, this is, by demonstrating these values, this is what's going to help you grow in this organisation.
Love that.
Yeah. I think the final thing is like, you have to embody them first, and it has to, like, because I've seen examples, especially when people do what you said, where they just set it and they just like touch on it. Half the time the leadership team don't embody embody it. So it's like, how can you expect something from someone that you aren't willing to demonstrate yourself? Like, you lead by example first, and you do it, and you also welcome the feedback back. Like, it has to come up the chain as well as down.
That's the biggest cancer in a business, I think. Like, you have someone in a leadership team who doesn't embody the values of a company or is scatty, and that then creates a scatty team below them. So that's, if you're looking at the source, usually if there's a bad culture, you can look up to someone who's in a leadership position that is creating and instilling that. And that's a really important thing that you need to kill, because it's very hard to stop that if there's someone in your leadership team who doesn't embody those things, because the team are just going to build resentment. It's like, why would I do this? And why am I being penalised for this when the person above me is doing that as well?
What have been some useful resources for you guys in like improving your leadership skills?
Loads. That's something that, like, I think I'm personally quite good at this. Is like, I'm like just an absorber, and you are as well. But like, I'm just an absorber of content, and I'm a big sharer to the team. And I just like every day I'll put things in Slack that I'm consuming, and whether it's leadership, whether it's team. So it's been through. I've got a notes in my phone that's just called amazing content, and every time I listen to something business wise, I'll just put a title, what it is, what it relates to, and just a link to it. And it's just like, probably got about 1,000 things in there now.
Nice.
I think the best places that we've, I think the obvious ones, like everyone talks about Alex Hormozi. I think Layla Hormozi is arguably better in terms of content output when you're running a business. I think Alex Hormozi is really good at strategy, commercial, offer, marketing. Layla Hormozi is incredible at internal ops, people, culture, and building teams and building high performance teams. So I think she's like, if you're going to start somewhere, start with her.
Very digestible, like 15-minute podcasts that just are so actionable, like every single one of them, which is, so that's a great place to start.
When you're thinking about like really starting from like, what is culture, how do you build it? And there's a lecture series called Blitz Scaling on YouTube. It's by Stanford, and Blitz Scaling was a concept in the early 2000s of like rapid count growth in tech companies to support rapid revenue growth. So like Google, LinkedIn, I think one of them, I can't remember which, went from 2,000 to 20,000 people in 6 months.
Oh my God.
That will never happen again, especially with AI. That will never happen again. But that is a business, that environment required such obsession with culture and management process. So there's a couple of episodes, one with Reid Hoffman from Google, One with a guy who I've forgotten the name of, which I actually think is the best, is the guy who went into LinkedIn when it was about 5,000 people and turned it round before he got acquired by Microsoft. And he goes through in that video how he went in, how he rebuilt culture, how he reset expectations and rebuilt the business towards where it was ended up. So that's an incredible resource. I'd recommend reading that. And then things like Netflix, Deck, like some of those more like little tactical bits. But I reckon if you just did that Blitzscaling lecture series and loads of Layla Hermosi, you'd get enough value.
Nice.
Yeah. One thing I do as well is like, any of these videos, I'll literally just transcribe them, put everything into a custom GPT bot and just share it with the management team. So if they've ever got any questions around like HR or management, building progression, it's a great place to build that context within like a GPT bot. But yeah, I mean, I've got a database. I'm happy to share it with the audience. Like, comment down below. What should the word be?
Leadership.
Comment leadership down below. And I'll share it with you because there's loads in there.
Hacking the engagement now.
Mate, it's our biggest hack on our podcast, giving away
lead mags.
Great resources, but if you comment.
Yeah. Still learning though, like by no means like even close to being perfect. I'd say like the last 6 months I've been a pretty bad like communicator in our business, and it's like something I've really obsessed over in the last 60 days, and I think I've gotten way better at it already because I just didn't appreciate like how much the cadence I should have been doing it on, or how intentional you have to be about the process. But yeah.
Nice. Client acquisition then.
This is, yeah. Client acquisition.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start?
Well, I mean, first of all, I mean, you've got 3 businesses or 3 agencies under this group. They have their own individual acquisition strategies. Is it centralized? What does that look like?
It's centralized because they all operate to the same or very similar ICP. So the businesses we sell to are very similar. So it's centralized in terms of resource and structure.
Mm. Can you give like a high level overview of what the funnel looks like at the moment?
Yeah. I use like the mental model of like attention or eyeballs, capture and conversion. Like those are the 3 stages, just because I think it's simple. It's like, how do you get in front of as many people as possible with good content? How do you capture their information? And then how do you use that information to nurture them down a sales process? So like, and we've kind of got a strategy at each stage. So like the sales process, I'm not going to really touch on, but that's like HubSpot flows, like all that stuff, follow-up sequences, which I think you can get incrementally better over time. But once the setup, it's kind of the setup. You can't make them better, but you can do like, it's like 80-20, like get them set up and optimize them, make them tailored to the entry point, pain point that they download the resource off, etc. And then we've laid in like events, which are another really good way to convert people who are like quite far down the funnel. But what we focused heavily on for like 2 years is eyeballs and capture. So like eyeballs just been personal brand. So LinkedIn, Twitter, podcast kind of sort of surfs between the two, but podcast. And then we're going to start doing short form a lot more, and just like daily posts on those.
Then we've got someone in house that we will give all of the content ideas to. It will be us, but then she will write the content into posts that we can put through LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. So there's more of like a formulaic strategy or way of that's being scheduled and posted.
Yeah, she's like plugged into us, but also the team. So she's plugged into like the departments, because it's like once you get to a certain size, it's like I'm not the best in our business at creative, right? The people who are doing it every day have the insights. So she's very plugged in, and she does daily posting for all 3 of the founders. And we do that across Twitter, LinkedIn, and then we obviously do the podcast every week. And then the thing that's just ripped for us over the last 2 years is lead magnets, lead magnet giveaways. We started them about 2.5 years ago, and we were doing 1 a month, and then we got to like September last year, had a look at where all our deals were coming from, and it was like all lead magnets, and they were driving loads of impressions as well. So we just do 1 a week now, and we the thing that I think I have to credit our team with is like they're all like really fucking good quality.
Yeah.
It's like
great lead magnets.
I've had people like, I was speaking to a head of growth of one of our brands, and he was like, yeah, I use your lead magnet in the interview process to get this job. It's like people taking the lead, like they are so valuable, but what that does is it creates a flywheel effect, because people who downloaded the last one download the next one. But to do that, you have to comment, which puts it in front of their audience. And it's like that flywheel. And then we push them from the lead magnet to a newsletter. And then that's just like a nurture sequence. And they also get tagged into HubSpot.
Nice. Do you then call through all the leads, the lead magnet?
Yeah. So you get first lead magnet, and then you get a prompt to download more, but you give me a phone number for the second one. Because I'm like, we just want to get you in for the first one. Phone number if you're willing to give us it. And then I've got a setter that calls.
Nice.
We've got one salesperson across 3 agencies. He's a bit of a freak though. He does like 12 hours of phone calls a day.
Very lucky to have him, to be honest. He's
sick.
An absolute weapon.
Yeah. And he's been with us 4 years, so he understands e-com as well as we do, which helps. And he speaks the languages like that founders want to hear.
And just loves cash.
Just like always helps.
Literally like the most money in a good way. I'm so money motivated.
Yeah,
well, that's
just
what you
give
want,
him the
right?
incentive, and like he'll just go for it.
He doesn't want to do anything else other than phone calls and follow up.
Yeah. And he's incentivized
Like
well.
honestly,
well
like
in the business.
he will literally send me a message like pounding me for an answer at like 8 p.m. on a Saturday, like, and he'll get pissed off if you don't reply.
That's what you want in a
Sometimes
closer.
it feels like he manages us.
Yeah. I literally reply to him sometimes like, I have other things to do in this business other than sort shit out for you. But it's like
do you want the money or not?
And then it's like I'm fuming at the moment, but then I'm like, yeah, fair enough. He's like, he's killing it.
Right,
But that shows what you can do with if you have the really good pipeline. You don't need a massive sales team. You need one really good closer, and you don't even need that at the start. You just do it yourself. But we just had this snowball effect though. It's just been a massive snowball.
I am just so bullish on the idea that even if you're a small agency, if you're wanting to grow, like I just think the best thing you can do is become a media company. Like flip the model on its head. It's like the Red Bull model. They're a media company first and a product second. And that's how they've been able to scale to where they are. And I think we definitely have that philosophy, you know, everything through the social content, the lead magnets, the YouTube channel, the newsletter. Like I think if you can position content at the forefront of what you do and education and value, you're going to win long term. It takes more time and it is time consuming, but I think that is what builds the best brands. And I think some people look at this like you might be an agency that just works with like dental practices, and you think, well, what's the point? Because I'm going to get 100 views a video.
Yeah.
But what you got to remember is like, though, if you get 100 people that are highly engaged in your content in your niche, that is ridiculously valuable.
It's quality over quantity, right?
Exactly.
Dominate that space.
Yeah.
I also think it aligns with the mission. Like it aligns with what we're trying to do in the industry. Like we want to be the gold standard of e-commerce. Like, and that's what the brand needs to be that as well. I think, again, I think it's Alex Hormozi who says that you always want to look at the end state in every industry as a model. Like people, like where does an agency get to over like 20 years in? They all go up market and they all go enterprise. And that's because it's less cyclical, because the businesses you're servicing are less cyclical. So therefore your revenue model is less cyclical. There's less, your churn rate's more predictable. It's less like volatile is the word, not cyclical, sorry. To do that, you have to build brand and positioning, which I think content is like the driver of that.
Yeah.
And that's why we've kind of committed on that journey and built a brand around our business in the way that we would build a brand for a client.
How have you found the DTC Diaries, the podcast, that's like come into the mix? Is it too early to see the fruits of that, or have you?
It's crushing.
Massive now. Just in terms of like the value of it, I think you just can't beat that. So you get on a call with a potential client and they tell you that they've listened to like 50 hours of you speaking already.
Pre-sell.
Like you just can't, like they already know you. And like I was on a 30-minute call with a brand. They're doing 35 mil a year, and they were talking to me like we were mates from the outset, just because they'd listened to all of our podcast episodes, and we closed them on a massive deal within 30 minutes, contract sent over, signed, and it's like just I just think like long form is just ridiculous when you start building that momentum. And like, I think the key here to say is like that it has taken time to get to that point. Like it wasn't like instant. Like we had to be posting consistently on a weekly basis for 6 months to really see the impact of it. But now it's like it is a snowball, and it's really
nowhere near its true potential.
Exactly. We're still getting started.
Getting sponsors for it though. It's like we're in a position where
Triple Whale.
Like Triple Whale, like stuff like that. But I think like we're in a position, and I think we'll achieve this probably maybe not this year, but definitely next. I think we can achieve negative CAC on our business through sponsorship, and like that's just mental. Like, that's like the holy grail of acquisition. It's we're getting paid to acquire customers because we've got this media arm that people want to get in front of our audience.
Well, I think we should be next year, like easily doing 6 figures a year just on the podcast.
Yeah. It's like there's so much cash in like SaaS sponsorships and like the ecosystem. So try to get towards that goal. But yeah, I've had a few interactions like that. It's like the same as having 50 long form VSLs in a way. Not quite the same, but it's like it's very low. It's quite lower funnel. It's upper funnel in terms of distribution, but it's lower funnel in terms of someone spending so much time with you that they build so much trust and conviction.
I think the key to that as well, like if you're going to do that, is we have not once pitched our service on the podcast in probably over 100 hours of content. Not once. Like you occasionally talk about the agency, but there's never a pitch, and I think that's key. Do it for the sake of education. Because I think what's the worst thing about content from a service provider is when they're creating it with the intention of selling their service, because that is what kind of comes to the forefront. Whereas if you're doing it for the purpose of educate first, and then if something happens off the back of this, great. If not, great. If you go into it with that mindset, like that is way more powerful.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree. So, with the pod, allocating time to it every week whilst also doing everything else, is that easy? Are you enjoying the process, or has it been
I do all the admin. He just turns up. He's just the face. I enjoy it. It's not that hard. Like we book a podcast.
We've got a team as well. Around us.
Everything post-production.
Studio at office?
No, but we're going to hopefully solve that.
Which is stupid because we've got 2 studios. We don't even do it in our own studio. But we're shooting almost every day in them, so it's hard. But I love it. I enjoy it. I think it's great because it's forced me closer to our product so I can give the best possible value on the podcast. Like when... I remember when we started it, like going, that's the problem when you're growing, you become so disconnected from the product. But I think as a founder or CEO, you need to be like the chief product officer as well. Like you need to be so close to the product to know how to continuously be improving it. I think it's forced me to get closer to our service so I can give the best possible value on the pod.
It's such an opportunity magnet as well. Like, I remember when I first started this, like it felt like a chore coming down to London once a month. Now I like the days coming. I'm like, I just love this. Get to sit and get to talk, to have the conversations you want to have with people that you respect, and then you open. I know you do guest episodes as well. I know you've done many episodes when you've done it just the two of you. But those have you had people guests that you haven't met before? They've just new. Yeah, the relationship you can build in 1 to 2 hours is insane on a podcast. The connections that you can open in that time period.
And a lot of people just sign as well after meeting on the pod, which works well.
Awesome.
I mean, you do like you're asking us, but like you do more content than we do. Like you've got the YouTube channel and the podcast,
long form, long form videos. I think you're bashing out more podcast episodes than I am now.
Long form videos next, I think, for us. I think that's if it's one area of marketing that I know we need to do, but I just can't. We don't need to do it now because pipeline isn't a problem. So we're not demand constrained, we're supply constrained. So we focus on that for now. But long form YouTube would be next. I think we just don't do it.
Don't you think you could just increase the output of the podcast though?
We're doing that actually.
Because then you're getting into like tutorial.
I do kind of agree, because like for example, I did like a massive training the other week with a team on like scripting and storytelling, and we're just like, well, why don't we just run a mastermind on the podcast where it's just me sharing screen doing teaching people about the topic.
I think you've got to really love it to do like the pure long form, sit there face to cam. Like it's so natural and fluid to sit in front of someone and have a conversation. It's
like, how do we do it without it being a chore? That's what's always been the thing.
I've been trying to figure that out for a decade. let me know when you figure it out.
Hey, Ollie here, back with another video.
I think
like, comment, subscribe.
I think with that, it's like literally like a Loom share screen. Like going through the presentation, obviously, just as long as you're spitting value, I don't think people care if you're.
You could probably repurpose some of the internal trainings that you've created.
Yeah, that's literally what we're doing.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Where do you see the future of the agencies as they stand at the moment? Like, what are you working towards in the businesses?
That's a good question. I think at a high level, the next step is to bring the other agencies closer to the Hambi in terms of culture, mission. Because they're a little bit separated right now, and it makes it more complex to run. So I think we're trying to do that over the next 3 to 6 months,
and then bring it in to the group.
Yeah, and I think the next like six months, and I was speaking to someone about this the other day. It's always tempting in a business when it's going well to start doing more stuff, new stuff, different stuff.
That's been our biggest problem.
And it's
everyone's problem.
And it's like, but a lot of the time you just need to let shit happen for like 12. You just need to do the same thing for 12 months and like
just keep getting better at it.
And just get better at it, not introduce anything new, not introduce any new services. Like, so like I actually just think for the next 6 months, we're just going to stick to exactly what we're doing. Just add headcount at the right rate, continue to get better at what we offer, and then trying to start thinking as we go into next year about building like a bit of a 3-year plan to the view of if we wanted to exit at the end of that point. I think the problem with agency right now is it's so, especially in our category, the AI innovation and the speed and rate of change makes it really, really hard to plan a 3 to 5 year strategy. Because it's just like, what is the landscape going to look like by then?
No one knew that VO3 was coming this year. Like text to video. Like no one thought that was coming this year, and then it's just there, and that in itself has bred agencies that just do VO3 production, as an example.
So what do you think is the biggest threat
for us
with regards to? I mean, actually, the agency in general, but when you think about AI, like what keeps you up thinking?
I don't think it's a threat as such. I think it's a threat long term, but I think we're actually going to enter like a golden era of gross margin and profit. How that's going to be realised is hard. Like I think we're going to be able to drive our unitary cost per creative down and our volume up. And we're going to be able to use our unique context, because we work with so many clients, to produce like really high volume of really good assets, and that's going to allow us to build more. We're going to be able to do it with the same or less people, so their unitary output on a people level is going to go up. So our gross margin is just going to get better, and our EBITDA is going to get better.
I think it's
it's like,
I think it's dependent on like legislation as well when it comes to ads. I think this is what we've spoken a lot about recently. You know, VO3 is going to get to the point where you will have no idea that it's like a UGC creator, or if it's real or not real, or, you know, with a high production shoot, why would we need to bring people into a studio to shoot a testimonial when we could just create it in 10 minutes with AI? That there's a risk to production because of that, and the way that people are producing creative. But legislation could change all of that, you know. Like there may be auto watermarks on ads because they're created by AI. Like it's still the Wild West out there in many ways, and it feels like, especially with all of the changes to AI, there's like some form of correction that will be coming in the distant or near future.
I feel like the watermark or like a stamp is very probable.
Yeah, I just think it's a negative outcome for society if you can produce infinite ads of people that don't exist selling your products as if they've used it. I just think that's just not a world that people want to live in.
Yeah.
It's a terrible idea.
Yeah. Which then by default still means you're being at an advantage because you have the ability, because most people won't be preparing to have the capacity to create real creative because they'll be leaning on AI, and you still have that because you had it originally.
I think that's the thing we're just trying to like. I think we're pretty far. I think we're quite. It's hard to you never think you're that. You never think you're as far. Well, I certainly think internally we think we're always critical around our AI adoption, but I actually think as a business we're pretty advanced in how fast we're moving with that. So I think as long as we stay on the forefront and we stay in this position in the market and we continue to strive and focus on product, people, etc., I think we can go through a period of like just real substantial growth, both a top and bottom line perspective.
Yeah, I think the key is like with where AI is moving to, like context is king. So data is king. So data, some form of internal data warehouse is going to be like essential and be our unfair advantage that we're going to need to leverage in different areas, whether that be like through a SaaS, how we build AI automations. So I think that needs to be a big focus. I think as we were talking about this earlier, like it's going to need to be some kind of SaaS integration into what we're doing for this to increase our multiples if we are to exit in a few years.
Yeah. So that's what I think. I think the service industry and SaaS industry are converging, and it's either over time. I think that's just going to become.
Completely agree.
And I think the next step for us is to probably either build something with the goal of the data, but also the goal of the efficiency. Because I think we're going to hit a limitation when you're using a project management tool, and then it allows you to just plug in AI tools and et cetera. So that's the plan. I think we'd probably look at doing another acquisition of another agency before we then. Like we'd probably roll up or try and do another one, maybe even two, before we eventually then went to sell. Because you've got to get to a pretty big top line number to make a service business really that valuable when you go to market, I think. Yeah.
Do you have a goal in mind?
Not really.
For what? In terms of like
valuation?
Yeah. Valuation?
No, not really. I never really put like a flag in the sand. You need to think about it, right? But I think it's like there's multiple things to think about when you're selling a business, especially with the business we've built. Is like it's who you sell it to matters for me as much as how much money you get for it. You want to be in a position where you've got multiple people who want to buy it, which I think performance agencies right now, from the few conversations I've had, are like a pretty shiny object for like bigger agencies to acquire. So hopefully that won't be a challenge. But I think like when we're selling, like we're going to, especially me, like I'm going to need to stay in that business for 2 years. Like probably it's almost impossible to sell an agency and just whip off into the sunset. So at that point, it's like, who do you sell to? How autonomous are you going to be after the point of that acquisition? What's their goal? How are they going to treat the team? All of that stuff like is really important to think about. I don't think we've got clear on that. I think we need to over the next 6 months and get really like clear on what we want to get to, but we've just been in build mode until now.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
We do. But then it's about like, as you said, still having that agility to pivot if needed.
Yeah. Because I also think there's a world where you could get like 2 years down and we could be at such high margin. It's like, what's the point? As long as if everyone's taking a lot of cash off the table, like it's like, obviously you probably would still sell it, but I don't know. There's so much change, it's really hard, I think, to...
Is there like a broader threat to D2C in general with AI and just I don't know, let's say an example of like Triple Whale, Moby and the way that they're moving. Like, is there the threat that some companies will just be able to bring a lot of stuff in-house with a lot more ease?
I think you're actually seeing people move slightly further away from in-house right now, to be honest. Because I think maybe, yeah. There's a world where like Meta just owns everything at a click. You upload your product margin, you upload your CAC, you press a button and it goes and gets your customers. That's probably the threat.
Yeah. Because that's the ultimate data source as well. Like that's our unfair advantage right now, is that we've got data from and context from multiple different business, like lots and lots of different businesses over a long period of time. Whereas
That's not just DTC either.
I'm not sure they would be able to do that, but because then how do they determine who gets favourable CPMs and whatnot? It's then at that point a monopoly, isn't it?
Content's the thing that stands the test of time. Like, I think our business becomes bigger and bigger content agency over time. Like, that's where I would be going towards content and creative. But the in-house thing, I think more brands are moving, like, I think, to specialised agencies, because even if you take a creative strategist, like, I think it's really hard to hire a really good creative strategist internally because they don't have the benefit of context.
Yeah.
They can't see another 20, 30, 50 brands.
I also think like a lot of brand owners are just not very good operators. And obviously I can't generalise, but in terms of even just like managing people and supporting, upskilling, growing individuals in a company, HR, they're more scrappy in many ways,
and should be product focused, really.
Yeah,
you don't need to think about it as much. It's not as big a problem.
Yeah,
but if you're going to try and build a massive team, like, you need to. That's what you need to become, or someone in your business needs to become that. So, but yeah, there's obviously there's threats with AI. I think 20 years, do I think our business exists? Probably not. Or it looks very, 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 very different to what it does now.
I don't want to be in this
I think
game,
everything.
I'm saying, like, theoretically.
I
like,
think everything just rolls. Service rolls into SaaS. SaaS rolls into like
agentic.
Yeah. Agentic, and then there'll be a few companies left, and then eventually they'll just autonomize, and online business won't exist, and we'll be selling pickaxes. And
but yeah, it does make it like hard to. It makes it really hard to plan a strategy, but you kind of have to control what you can control.
But at least for the next 3 years, it's a monumental opportunity, and you're sat in the most advantageous position that you could possibly be.
There's never been a better opportunity. But I think it's like one thing that agency owners need to try and avoid doing is like try and avoid getting distracted by too many of the shiny medals and because there's literally so many AI tools now that are popping up, especially in like, obviously I'm very focused on our creative agency, and the amount of creative SaaS tools AI SaaS tools that are popping up that all do slightly different things, and loads of different kind of types of creative and AI and automations and research and strategy and whatever it might be. The problem is it's like you have to be very selective of the tech stack that you're working with. And I think the thing I'm seeing happen a lot is there's just so much noise that people are getting distracted. And as a result, they're trying to use so many different tools as part of their tech stack, but nothing well. And there's no like use case for why they're using something. And I think we try and like simplify our tech stack as much as possible and do less better. And it doesn't mean we're not utilizing AI and there's not high adoption of AI, but we're trying to keep it as simple as we can to drive as much impact.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that focus is it's hard as an agency owner. I think you are by default exposed to just so much more opportunity because you just meet all these. That's like the key. I think that's just that restraint, and
got a few quick fire questions for you guys. Very simple ones though, not testing ones. What's your favourite thing what do you love the most about running an agency?
I thought you were going to say, what do you love most about each other then? All right, some like couples therapy.
Yeah, back to back.
The people, I think. I generally really enjoy working with very talented people, and like it excites me. They've grown me as an individual a lot. Hopefully, I've done the same to them, and it's like there's a mutual level of like respect and appreciation for the fact that have given me or our business so much time, and they're so bought into what we're doing. Then I also think that on the client side, like I really enjoy working with the right clients where we're getting great results because the relationships are always amazing. I think it's a people business at the end of the day. That would be my area.
I agree. That's mine, definitely. Like just the game of building with A players that all do different things really, really well. Like just building with people you like, I think is so fun. Like we were talking about this the other day, but I think our C-suite and also there's other people in my network, including yourself. Like these are I feel like no matter what business you're in, whether we sell this, whatever happens, I feel like there is a group of people that I will be building with for the rest of my life. It will never be siloed.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I enjoy.
Nice. What do you hate the most about running an agency?
It's probably going to completely contradict what Ollie just said, but like just, and to be honest, it's like it doesn't need to be like this, and we're moving away from it growing outwards. But probably just the sheer volume of people in the business versus like a D2C brand where you can be much more lean. Mm-hmm. I love people and I love working with people and I absolutely love our team, but we've definitely grown outwards instead of upwards, and that we've made that switch now, and that comes with its challenges.
Yeah, definitely does. I think like the unpredictable nature of it, right? So like, there's nothing worse than getting up at 8:30. Clients like need to jump on a call with you today. It's like emotional, just like in the impact that it has on your day is like,
yeah. What's it gonna be?
It's like, what's it gonna be? It's just I don't like that feeling. I think like there's not that much else in the business I don't enjoy. Like I think it's like there's hard things, but it's like you have to be better. It's a skill issue, as they say. But like I think we have to make better decisions. We have to learn. We have to just progress. But that like unpredictable emotional element to it, when you're dealing with people, it's like those difficult conversations, because they happen, are just like it's never nice.
Yeah. I expect the people to be the answer to both of those.
Yeah.
So it's the best and it's the worst thing.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
What about you?
The same.
Yeah.
The same. Yeah, people on both sides. You love seeing people grow inside of a business and love building those relationships and so on. But then it's also dealing with the fallout of that when it doesn't go to plan, and learning and forcing to change. But it's all positive either side.
But even then, it's like extreme ownership. It's like if it doesn't go well, it's our
leadership
fault.
problem.
It's our fault.
Yeah.
It's like we hired the wrong person.
Yeah.
We weren't clear on the reason. We weren't clear on what we needed that person to do. So even when we made the wrong strategic decisions, so we hired too many people to like. It all comes back to like ultimate ownership of like it's our fault. We need to just fix it.
Yeah.
What do you think is the like personal biggest mindset shift you've had to go through when it comes to scaling, like to enable the business to grow?
I think for me, in terms of scaling specifically,
What in terms of growing the business and enabling its success?
I would say like always being in an uncomfortable position is like important part of growth. Like I think whenever the business hasn't grown is when I've become too comfortable because it's going so well. And then as a result, round the corner, because you haven't been proactive enough to what's in front of you, you become stagnant, you lose a load of clients, you know, your competitors chased you and created a better product. So the best times and I've had that harsh reality and harsh wake-up call a couple of times now in business, like the first time during COVID, but I was just relying on referrals. There was no sales mechanism because it was working and I was getting referrals, and I wasn't pushing myself, and then lost a lot of clients through that. The second time was that before we really doubled down on our performance creative service, I didn't see that what we were doing just like it reached the end of its course. And then I had to spend a lot of time going back to the drawing board and like, what are the next steps? Like how do we need to evolve our service to win in this market? And again, like almost went under during that period. It was when we were first living together.
Yeah.
Like it was, and that was what bred the performance creative service as a whole. But there were both times where I was very comfortable I think that's a risk because you get comfortable and you get cocky when things are going really well.
Agree.
I was trying to think of a good answer whilst you're going through that from my side. I see mindset shifts as like cyclical. I think you have to shift your mindset every 6 months, or you have to level up as an operator every 6 months. I think I've just gone through this process again because I think there was a period at the start of this year where, because we had such a good leadership team and we've got to this, like, there was loads of challenges in the business, but we have a lot of people who take a lot of stuff off my plate. It was like I kind of lost like the view of like what my responsibility or like what I should be spending on my time on to create like high impact in the company. And that's an example. And now I've got a much better clarity on that now, more structure. But that's an example of just like needing to break through a barrier and just like be a bit more like the idea of being like really effective and not busy, which I think you can get caught up in quite a lot in a big, fast growing business. Especially when you've kind of been on the full growth journey. Don't know if that was even a good answer.
I think I think a big part of that is like prioritization. I think a lot of founders just aren't good at prioritizing and forward planning. And I think the best leaders are the ones that plan the week before, like plan before Monday. They plan their week and they bucket it into things like how much time am I spending on innovation, management, admin, operations in the next week, and what are those priorities? Use a decision matrix to decide what you prioritize, and then blocking out your calendar accordingly. But doing that on the Sunday or the Friday before you go into the Monday, because otherwise you're borrowing time from later on in that week, and you get into like a reactive play where you will become a slave of your own business because you're not dictating your calendar's dictating you. You get pulled into meetings, an issue comes up, a fire comes up, and you go and have to put out that fire. But when you're forward planning, sometimes actually you realize that the biggest unlock and the biggest needle mover is to work on that thing that's going to help grow the business in the next 6 months, and actually leave the fire burning. Because sometimes you have to leave a fire burning because you have to prioritize things that are going to create the biggest impact.
For me, I think that the biggest thing is being able to be fluid in reversing decisions that I've made inside of the business. Sometimes I think in early stages of business would make decisions and stick to them because I believe that was the right thing to do, and then the more team members are involved, the more fallout there is, and then like too much time goes and so on. So I think it's like being fluid.
I'd agree on that as well. Pivoting strategically. We probably haven't done that quick enough in the business that we run right now. We've just started to do it, and it's just like I can already tell it's just going to be such an easier business to run.
Some of our biggest mistakes last year came from that, just like making quick decisions without like even thinking things through, because you think you have to make that decision then. So like this is just something we're going to start doing, but like if anyone in C-suite thinks we need to do something, it's like create a business case for it.
Nice. Because
then by doing that, it's like the same thing with like Jeff Bezos and like memos before meetings. Like if you want a meeting, you have to create a memo because it's like otherwise what's the point of the meeting? To prove that there is a need for this. And I think sometimes, it's important to be quick, but calculated.
Yeah. Nice. Final thing. Looking into the short term, like the next 3 to 6 months, what are you the most excited for in the company?
Q4, man.
What does that mean?
Just Q4 is like the big period for ecom where everyone makes most of the revenue and profit in the year. So like we're on a lot of variable billing, so we'll follow that trajectory. What I'm most excited for kind of ties to what I said earlier about like just doing nothing new, and just how I just think we're going to get to the end of this year and we're just going to be a well-oiled machine of what we're trying to do well, and it's going to produce the really good outcome for us. But we're going to have a really good team. I think we're going to have a really clear plan for next year. So kind of really, excited to just see that play out for the rest of this year. And then I think the culture that we as I said, we've got some feedback that we kind of let that slip at the start of this year, but we've started to get some real momentum around that over the last month, which I've been leading, and I can already just feel how the buy-in and conviction in the team like growing again and being like super aligned, which I think is just momentum is just like such a great feeling in a business. So I think those two things.
Yeah, I would agree. I think long term, like 6+ months, definitely VO3 for me. As a creative, I just think there's just so much potential there, and it's really exciting. And I think it's never going to replace what we're doing in terms of production and creative, but it's going to be there next to it. And I'm really excited to see how that evolves and is integrated into the service and what we're doing, because I want to be the best at it.
I love spending some one-on-one time with the robot.
So yeah, I think that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Gents, pleasure.
Pleasure, yeah.
Thank you.
Enjoyed that, yeah. Really enjoyed that conversation. Thanks for having us.
Cool.